there was once a little boy who had a pet bird that he was very proud of. And one day he wanted to take the bird outside where his friends were and show it off to them. And he took the cage outside. He very foolishly left the door of the cage open. And so as soon as it was outside, the little bird flew out the cage and flew away. And no matter what the boy did, he could do nothing to get it back. It was gone. It was gone forever. And he was devastated. Something like this happens to us sometimes in the words that we use and in the actions that we do. You ever experienced that? Like, you say something, and as soon as like the words come out of your mouth, you're like, oh, why did I say that? That totally made me look like an idiot. Or maybe like, I know that's gonna like totally hurt somebody's feelings. Or you ever like do something, and as soon as you do it, you're just like, why did I do this? This is like, this is like a terrible decision. The virtue of prudence wants to save us from that, which is what we're talking about today. The virtue of prudence is defined as right reason with respect to action. In other words, when I do things or when I say things, do I do them based on reason, like using my head and thinking through them well, or do I do them based on like impulses, things that I just do just because it's how I feel in the moment? If we just do things based on how we feel, those sort of the decisions that lead us to sort of like let the bird out of the cage, so to speak. Those are the decisions that we find ourselves eventually saying, I wish I could go back and undo that. I wish I could go back and unsay that. But that's not the way the world works. As soon as we do something or say something, it's out there forever. You can't go back and change it. And so when we are growing the virtue of prudence, we should always be seeking to do things based on good thinking. And sometimes that requires that we slow down and take that time that we need to think, to pause. There was a kid in the town that I grew up in one day, and he was out in the backyard behind his house, and he looked up in the tree and he saw a squirrel. And so he got all excited and he ran and got his bow and arrow. And he didn't think through things very clearly, and he cranked back the bow as hard as he could, and he shot it straight up in the air trying to hit the squirrel, and of course he missed. And then to his horror, he realized that he didn't take into account that maybe he was going to miss. And so the arrow flew over the house, his house, and it landed in the middle of Main Street. Now, luckily for this kid, he didn't kill anybody, he didn't hurt anybody, but it was super dangerous. He didn't think through like all the possibilities that could come from his actions. He was so caught up in the impulse of the moment, his excitement around like, well, I'm gonna get this squirrel. And he didn't take the time to stop and think. God has given us a mind so that we can make good decisions. We can choose to do things and to say things that are well thought through. And one of the best ways to do this is to ask ourselves this simple question. And we should ask ourselves this all the time. Would I do what I'm about to do, or would I say what I'm about to say, knowing that Jesus is standing right next to me? If we did that all the time, we would live a life with no regrets. Would I do what I'm about to do, or say what I'm about to say, knowing that Jesus is standing right next to me?